So this week is going to be a pretty interesting week. Not really expecting anything to happen for the first couple of days just because Powell should be able to drop his bomb halfway through the week. Whatever he's going to do, I think pretty much big money would wait for that. Smart money would probably wait for that. So I don't think there would be too many eager to jump the gun of which direction he's going to go, whether he's going to cut or raise or do nothing. He could do that. So the market is a little bit confused right now. Let's jump into the S&P 500. And so on this one, I had two counts. So I was looking for, this is our C wave, and I needed the fifth of the C wave in order for it to be a completed fifth, or a completed C wave, which would end our retracement, which would then launch us back down. However, I do kind of think this one is a truncated fifth, so the C wave can be done. Not a huge fan of it, but just kind of bear with me, because if we break this, that B wave, then obviously you have your third of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the downside for a 1, and then that would be your 2. So this one is showing to the downside. However, it is in limbo, so it could come back up and be fine. I don't like the fact that it completely retraced the second though. So yeah, the count is just a little bit off. And I'm leaving the upside because this is the Qs, and the Qs just has a super nice count of where you have your 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 is done. I guess you could. Okay, it doesn't want to be selected, but so this one is well on its way to get the fifth taken care of. So it's a little bit of a conflict, and I think that's like just the main theme of the whole market is there's two pretty equal sides of people that are like, oh, I think it's going down. Others that are thinking it's going to go up. And so Powell will be able to clarify that Wednesday. All right, and so the Dow Jones, so we'll be seeing this formation quite a lot, where it could be that this is like the B wave is just farther than I originally thought. So it'd be doing something like this. So it could be doing that, where your A would then have probably your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, something like that. Up there. Then you would have your A, B, C, and then this would be your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So something like that. So let me drop a line right there, and this would be your buy area. So that would be my C wave, and then we go up and grab this B, or the completion of the C for the B wave, and then we go down for this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the C. A little bit confusing, but I do think there are some conflicting counts. I do like to the upside before to the downside on the Dow and the Qs, but the S&P, I think that one's going down. But again, you can't really trade off of thinking, so this is just wild predictions. I might as well be studying alchemy. So yeah, but then let's take a look at the Dixie. And so I was kind of expecting it to pull back a little bit farther, but I'm happy with where it is, so this one can start going, which should bring the market down. But I do believe that the end of your 2 is what we want to stay out of for your ABC. But yeah, this one following pretty nicely, headed to the upside. And again, if this thing comes crashing down, then it might be where you have to recount. But the fact that it did break the fourth wave, barely, and the EMAs are all knotted up with the count, a pretty clean count to the upside, I'm expecting everything to come down overall. But you cannot see any selling pressure or buying pressure in the dollar. So it might be a little bit early to try and be calling these things, but I do like to the upside. I have liked to the upside for a couple weeks, so nothing really to change on that, except how far it can go down. All right, and technology is pretty much the same as the Qs, where it is doing its 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the upside. And so I had this drawing for quite some time. I would like a break of the 3, like a larger break. So let's drop to the 4, and you can kind of count what's going on here. So you'd have your A, B, C as your fourth, which would mean you would be looking for a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's why I kind of like the upside still, is that this fifth isn't complete, I don't think. Obviously it's got to bounce around for a little bit and then shoot back up. So since this is a fourth and a 4 hour, it might be that it gets us to Wednesday, and then Wednesday Al does something where he only raises 25 or cuts, and then you get that final push, and then maybe some bad data comes out and sends it back down. But I do like a little bit higher before lower for technology. I'm going to open this one up and just kind of show it is a mixed bag, and I do have some counts that have to be updated. All right, so here's Apple. So Apple, I've had this buy drawn out for quite some time. Not really a buy. There's no area to buy on, but I do have higher before lower, and I've had this one on for quite some time. So it is respecting the upside, and it makes sense. Like, this is a pretty safe company to invest in. So I would imagine people will just pull money from more riskier companies and drop it into Apple. All right, and so this is Microsoft. So Microsoft, I was seeing an absolute flag to the downside, and that's why it was a higher risk. That's why I didn't make any trade videos. I did like this area. It did get stopped, but it was replaced with a bull flag to the upside. This one is not good enough to trade off of, like, really anywhere. But I would just like to point out that this one does have some buying pressure behind it. So again, it could be that people are happy with the pullback and are going to take this as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 A, B, C to the upside before it comes back down. But just super interesting that it is crushing resistance to the upside. All right, and Cisco is another one of those clean counts that I had to the upside. Pretty much the exact same thing since I drew these lines. So I am hoping for just a little bit higher, and then it can come back down. What gets it there, I'm not sure. Maybe we have to wait all the way till earnings. But in the meantime, there's not really anything trade worthy. Okay, and this is Oracle. And so this is kind of where you have it. I like where it got stuck already. So this one might be done to the upside, where you have your retracement is done. So it might be we're already headed back down. So again, technology is a mixed bag, so just more of a heads up about technology. I'm not really doing anything with it this week. Just kind of waiting for clarification on what it's trying to do. All right, and here's healthcare. So this one is the XLV. On the 3-day, it had these nice flags right here. So let me get a little bit box. But just maybe like a pullback into this area. And some of the charts are showing a count like this. My overall is still down, but I would like it to kind of give like a little bit of a bounce to get into some of these positions. And I'll go into this one and show you that a lot of these positions will need pop, or it gets filled and then a drop back down. All right, so here's UNH, and this is still on 3-day. I think weekly is probably a little bit better. But yeah, just a pop up. It would be sick if it could break something before coming back up. You know, maybe it pops down, comes back up, and then goes down for a ride. But I do like the short on this one. All right, Pfizer, this is still on the weekly. It's pretty much the same thing. However, it did break the pivot and close. So this one might not have that far to take profit. So, I mean, I would be super cautious taking any positions. I'm actually not taking positions on this one just because it has pulled back far enough. It's not going anywhere until it breaks the 45 to the upside. Other than that, downward it goes. LOY still on the weekly. This one was actually a trade, so it just tagged in here. So hopefully it does get a little bit more of a pop. So I can get filled, and then we can go on a run for this 4th wave, which would be super nice. So this one is actually a trade. Go watch. I believe I did it in this last trade update video. I went back through to touch up some areas. So yeah, check that out for more detail on the trade. All right, and finance. So I have been counting down for finance. So this one, I'm happy with the ABC to the upside. Obviously, this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is happening a little bit faster than anticipated. So it could get a little bit complicated. So this is our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this would be your 1. Okay, so then your pullback might go to the 4th wave, and then your 3 will kind of fire down a little bit harder. Means your 4th is now over here and your 5th is over here. Okay, so that's kind of what I'm anticipating. I do think immediately it's more to the downside, but we could have a smaller pullback upward to get this 4th, or this could be done and we could have our 1 and then it comes back up to go get our 2 and then drop for our 3. So this one's just going to have to be played by ear. But I do like the downside. I mean, for obvious reasons. Like, when banks fail, it's never a good thing. So yeah, I do like the downside, but I will kind of be expecting a pop. Hopefully, ideally, it would be super deep, but yeah, we might not get it. But I'll kind of open this up, and in finance, it's going to be kind of quiet just because everything is way too far away from an entry point for anything really to happen. So if you want more detail, I covered it. It's pretty much counting exactly how I had it a couple weeks ago. So I would check those out. All right, so this is Berkshire Hathaway, which is kind of taking the middle route of what I expected. This one can still happen, but I highly doubt we're getting up here, which is kind of a bummer because that's really the only one I wanted to take a trade on. It could still pop up, but no, not really any further updates from here. Expecting to the downside and slowly. I'm not really going to be shorting Berkshire Hathaway at any time unless it gets up here. So, all right, and so this is American Express. And everything in finance pretty much looks like exactly like this. So I do believe we are on the C wave of this whole deal. And this is on the fourth wave of wave one. So if you look at any of the other charts, they all will look pretty much exactly like this. So I think we're just getting started. I do think after this fifth, we'll get a nice position or area for a pullback. So it might be that our second wave comes back up to the fourth wave of this one, which will be an ABC to the top of the fourth, and then it goes down for wave three. So some areas will be starting to set up, but we'll just have to wait. Okay, and so kind of in the finance is this insurance broker, which I think is a lagger, if I'm really being honest. I do like this area, so look for this one in the trade updates, because this one is good enough with enough breaks that it's good enough to trade. So stand by for this one. All right, and moving on to the energy sector. So this one, we had a nice little triangle that broke to the downside. Okay, not ideal, but I was showing this one. It followed exactly like this one. So you can see the update from last week, and it'll show you the triangle and what I thought was going to happen. Pretty much exactly how it did. So I do think we are on our way to the downside. Yeah, where this would be our 1 2 1 2 3 4 5 3. So I think this one is going to go pretty hard to the downside, but like the finance sector, it will need some pops in order to get position ready. So, for example, this is ExxonMobil, which it broke this pivot, which is fantastic. So I am looking for, and I don't know if it could come up just because it would be pretty high, so it might not come all the way up. But I'm kind of expecting something like that, and this would be your one, maybe like that, so a little bit lower. But this would be a position that I would keep my eye on if we do come down a little bit farther for this A wave, for this ABC coming to the downside. So I do think opportunities will show up, but I think it's just going to be patient. So here's another one in energy. This is OXY. And this one, a couple weeks ago, I showed that it was building this flag. I don't think it hasn't made its move at all. So someone's still selling their position. So I might drop a trade on this one just because, like, as a higher risk, like not financial advice, just a super high risk trade. But I do believe someone is getting out of this, and I'm negative on energy. So why not, you know? This is kind of, might as well get that in there. Yeah, the profit's not going to be like super tight, so not a whole lot of money can be made on this. But yeah, might as well. All right, utilities. So utilities have actually made its bounce back to the upside. So these actually have some positions ready. Some of them have to go a little bit higher. So like I can still see just a gradual slide up before a downturn. But this one's looking pretty good, and it is respecting our marks pretty well. So I do like this one. Like, obviously it doesn't have to follow these lines. Everything can blow up and do whatever the hell it wants. But probability wise, this is kind of what I look for to take trade setups. All right, so this is XL. I'm already in a position on XL, but it does have this nice little pullback into this flag. So I am expecting to the downside. And this is just to show that some of them are ready to turn around right now, and others will have to come up just a little bit more. So there is kind of a little bit of laggers and leaders kind of guiding this one around. All right, and this is American Waterworks, or AWK. And this one will need a little bit of a pop before I'd be willing to take it back down. So just a heads up, there are different counts here, but also just take a look at the fact that it did break, okay? Even barely, but it did break. So this could also just go straight through. So like always, there's risk in it, but probability wise, I like the downside. All right, and this is consumer discretionary, or the XLY. And this one I do have to the upside. So whether or not that happens, I mean, we'll find out pretty quickly. But I do think we have our ABC to the downside for this B wave. So I do think this could be done. And then a rise. And this is only accurate if I didn't mess up this first count. So if this is your ABC to the upside, and then that's it because it matches the channel, you know, then that's a bummer, and this is going to go right back down. But yeah, I do like the count to the upside, so it's still a possibility. I was kind of analyzing and just seeing like what what the stocks inside has to say, or if you can see any selling pressure or buying pressure. It can really go either way. And so I do want to highlight these flags to the downside. That's not a great sign, but I want to jump into this and kind of show just what I'm looking at that is a little bit worrying. So this is Amazon, obviously the mega one, and I had 2 counts. Obviously it can go up or down, so it's not really a huge thing. This is what I like the most, which is this going back up to the 4th wave as a retracement. So you get your ABC to the 4th wave. How that would happen with fundamentals, I have absolutely no idea. Maybe like everyone would just say, Amazon's a great company, I'm going to park my money in it. That could be a valid reason, but I do like to the upside. There's no trades, like you can't see any buying pressure or selling pressure. So this one's going to have to be confirmed by one, breaking the trend. We have the 200 EMA up there that still needs to be broken, and we have this pivot for this A wave that needs to be snapped. And then I would like to see it go all the way up to around the 4th wave completion. But yeah, we'll see how this plays out. But so this is to the upside. Now I want to show you some of the downsides. For instance, this is TJX, which is showing 2 bear flags. So it's just flagged out, and this one has breaks. So they are getting a little bit stronger. Obviously, you have some opposing flags, but if this one starts snapping, it's going to be like a lot of profit taking, I would imagine, would be happening, where people are like, hey, I did pretty good in this over the past couple years, so I'm going to start dropping profits and then start rolling into something that I think is lower, like an Amazon maybe. All right, and this is O'Reilly's. ORLY is the ticker symbol. Again, we have this this bear flag right here, which as soon as it breaks, this is a confirmed, yeah, you got your double top and then your downtrend. Obviously it could pop back up, you know, not really a huge deal. This ABC to the downside, I think, is a highly probable count. But yeah, I mean, it is a mixed bag. It's basically flip a coin at this point. But hopefully we'll get some more information during the week that can confirm which way we're going. All right, and so this is the industrial sector. So this one I was having a little bit trouble of counting it. Wasn't really making itself super easy. So I do like this count. And I was kind of going back into my books and seeing like just how these work. And I do believe we could have a double zag type deal to the downside, where this would be, this could be like an A, B, C, you know, obviously like not super great setups, but then this Y would then be like an A, B, C. Okay, so it's just a huge double zigzag, and then obviously this would stay in a channel, you know, just kind of super sloppily drawn. Hey, that's not bad. But yeah, so this is kind of my new favorite count. And again, Elliott waves, I always count, recount, and then, you know, delete all my lines and then try it again. And yeah, if you start ending up with the same things, either you're going to be wrong a lot or you're going to be on point with the counts. But this is my new favorite count of how I'm interpreting this, which is a X wave double zigzag to the downside. Cool, and this one, so that A wave, it was what I was having issues with counting. So this guy right here, back on the XLI, this A wave is a joke, right? So you have your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for your A, and then your B, but it's super messy. So this one is kind of the cleanest one that I've found, where you have your A, B, C for your downside, which would then make your double zag. So it would be your WXY to the downside. So I don't know where that went. Yeah, there we go. So you got your WXY, and the X, it looks to be an impulse, which is a little bit frustrating, but on other charts, this one is a ABC as well. So kind of using the whole entire ETF to figure out what the count is, and this is my favorite one that I found, and it just kind of pieced together the entire index to see what the majority of everything is doing. So to throw a wrench into the plan, you got Boeing, which doesn't look anything like any of the charts we looked at. But this one I have a buy on, which is interesting. So I do like these flags right here, and then how they broke this, as well as there was a huge area of resistance right here, which it just pounded right through. So I do like the fact that there should be some orders sitting in here. But yeah, this one would be, my one to screw up the count would be Boeing. So just to throw this one in there, take it how you will. All right, moving on to the materials sector. This one I do believe is pretty much exactly like the industrials. However, I do like the ABC here instead of the X. Yeah. So just heads up for this one, I'm going down. I like the fact that it did break. This would be the B wave of the B wave of the B wave, which is awesome. So where I do think we're on our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the downside for this C wave. So expecting down for all of the materials. All right, and so these are going to be, they're going to take a minute to come back up. So the plan for this would be to get this fourth wave. Maybe it comes back around somewhere into this pivot area, but not into this second wave, and then have it drop back down. So it could be something like that, maybe not as far as like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the downside. This is your A, so you have double top. Everything's kind of showing to the downside where you just have your B retracement. So this one could go pretty far. I don't think it would go as far as the A, so expect it kind of around like the 42-ish area where you get some more support coming in for this one. All right, and PPG, I like the upside, and I have for quite some time. It's been in this huge flag now for a while, but I do believe we are getting some selling pressure, so we might not make it any higher. So if this starts breaking, which it wants to, if it does, I might look for, like, if it blasts down just a little bit more, might look for then a pullback and then a drop. Obviously, it doesn't have to happen like that, but this is kind of what the chart is showing at the moment. So I'm not doing any immediate shorts or anything, just because it could just range out for another 7 months. So all right, ALB is the same as the Dow, which I need a pop and then a drop, but it is working on this pivot. So if it gets this pivot, that would be sick, and a confirmation that it is coming down. How far, to be determined. All right, and this is steel. So this one is a higher risk. But I do think it could get hit just because, one, it hasn't really broken a whole lot. So if you're looking at the long term, it's pretty much killing it. So I do think this one has a lot more profit area than the other ones, which is always nice and makes the trade a lot more worth it. So this one is on the 4-hour, and it is taking the congestion above the pivot. You can go get that pivot. I'm going to place mine pretty tight. But so it's taking the congestion above the pivot and the solid drop out. Okay, so the play for this one would be to have it come back up, maybe above the pivots, and then have it slam back down. And since this one's on a 4-hour, I feel good, and all the volatility this week, so it is higher risk, but I feel good that this one could get hit and then have a nice drop. It also could come up to this second flag up here, so kind of two areas stacked together, but I am going to take the bottom one first and then kind of see how it goes with the other ones. All right, and so, well, let's get back on daily. So this one is nice because it is showing some strong breaks, which is pretty sweet, but the area that I'm interested in is on the weekly, which, I mean, you can kind of see it no problem now. So I would like this triangle to break to the downside. So would be cool if it does do a nice little break and then comes back up, maybe slams into the end of the triangle, and then heads back down. So this one is more of just a heads up. A good formation is there, but it might not get filled for a couple weeks, but just heads up. All right, and the consumer staples, well, let's go to the daily, is having its, like the utilities, it's having its little pullback into these flags, and then I'm expecting kind of a drop out of it. Higher risk just because nothing's confirmed, like nothing's been broken or anything, so this could just fire back up and like get some of the bad news. Well, good news for consumer staples, bad news for the rest of the market, and have this whole thing pop. I still like the downside though, just because I have more information confirming the downside than I do to upside. All right, and here's Coca-Cola, which I'm already in a trade. I do like this ABC up on the weekly, and then this huge flag. That's been going on for 3 months now. So I do believe someone's big's getting out of this. And then this will drop pretty heavy. Yeah, how long that is, not too sure, but I'm looking at this and reading this as selling pressure. All right, Costco. Costco is kind of showing the same thing as AVY, except its triangle has not broken anything. Okay, so I am expecting this to break to the downside to get this final fifth for the C wave to end. I mean, it's Costco, so I guess anytime anything breaks down, I would imagine Costco would go up. What this means for the overall market, yeah, you can take your best shot at that, but this is my count that I do like. All right, Walmart has the same thing, except it's not a triangle, it's a huge flag, like Coca-Cola, except it's already making its kind of breaks to the downside. So this one, it might even present a trade this week that would like ricochet off this area, but I do think it might be on the 2 weeks that you can see this the best. Yeah, so there's all your hammers that are showing to the downside, so I really like that. So yeah, maybe you pop up and then we come slamming back down for our ABC to the downside. How far it goes, probably to the fourth wave, so around $102 is where I would probably, like, obviously you get out before that, but that's where I'm calling the reversal. So I mean, might as well drop some areas on that, and yeah, we'll see how that plays out. All right, this is PM, which again has this nice little flag up here showing downward pressure, breaking into these nice support areas and breaking through them. So a lot of strength to the downside in this market. All right, and this is ADM. You can see it best on the weekly. So these are larger areas, so they normally don't get broken a whole lot, but like look how far all this stuff is leading the rest of the market. Like the first things that are going to turn around is going to be consumer staples. So because like these things are already halfway through their C, which means like, yeah, I'm expecting buy positions going on at $66. So these are, it could be like, oh, he cuts rates and then it sends staples down, the rest of the market goes up, and then shit can hit the fan. These would turn around first, the rest of the market would come back down, and that would get a lot of my positions filled. But that's also what the chart is kind of saying. So whether or not that happens, it could be like it just gets terrible news and is done. But yeah, just kind of heads up that these are your leading charts of what's going to turn around first, not financial advice. All right, so I would like to kind of bring myself back down to earth. Yeah, we'll keep it on a weekly. So this one, I had these two flags on Hershey. Let's just kind of look at this real quick. Like, this is ridiculous, okay? I'm pretty sure they only sell chocolate. Like, I don't think I'm pretty sure they don't make weapons for the government, okay? They just make chocolate. It's pretty impressive. So, and it is, okay, so I had these areas of resistance that were obviously unconfirmed, because it didn't break anything. So these were higher risk. I don't think I had any trades on. I'll have to check. But this is kind of what I was expecting was its nice little pullback to the downside. Obviously super high risk because, I mean, look at this EMA, dude. Like, this is what you want to take to the upside for sure. Just these nice little pullbacks down to the 50 or 100 and it just ricochets off. So definitely pretty sweet. But I would like to bring your attention to this. Okay, this is a bull flag, the upside, that broke the previous high. This is just basically saying that I'm not right 100% of the time. I don't think anyone is. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to be as accurate as I can while reading the charts. So yeah, everything I've been saying, take it with a grain of salt. It's not financial advice. It's more of me talking through what I'm going to try to do in the market and what the market is presenting itself as. Cool, and let's continue. This is the Kraft Heinz company, and so just has the opposite flag. Obviously, it's still on the weekly. Oh, I should probably turn these back on, huh? That would probably help, but yeah, kind of too late. But yeah, I'll put the timestamps and all the symbols in the description, so don't worry too much about it. But yeah, this one I'm expecting it could have just a pop back up into it and then a drop. So the absolute opposite of Hershey's, which is nice. Everything is super confused, which is always good. Like that's the time to make a bunch of money, is when it is harder to read, but there is a lot of money to be made during these times. Cool. And my final chart is Church and Dwight company. I have absolutely no idea what they do or what they make, but I really like their count and I really like this area for the B. So I am expecting it to go down. Might want to Google what they do before getting in this trade, but yeah, I do like the downside on this one for this C wave. So cool, that's all I got this week for the overall market. I still have to do the Bitcoin one because I am going to look at a bunch of other currency baskets just to kind of see if money is flowing into crypto or if it's not. So stay tuned for that. And it's going to be kind of a lighter week on trades, but I also have a couple trades that I will put out in the prediction video. So yeah, just a heads up for that.